Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of C++ STL algorithms, and in this tutorial we'll be looking at some more interesting functions provided by the algorithms header file. So before we do anything, let's first include our algorithms header file to begin with. So include algorithm, and as we have seen earlier, our algorithms, they are basically performed on some containers. It can be a simple array, but we will be using a container in any case, and in our case we will be using vector. Okay, now let's say we have a vector of integers, and it's called data, and it has around 10 integers. Okay, now the first algorithm that we are going to cover today is called generate, and what generate does is it generates some data according to our need. So to use generate, we just simply call generate, and we specify the range here, just like most of the algorithms provided by the algorithms library. So we say data dot begin, and then we say data dot end, and then here we provide a function via which we can generate the data. Now in this case I will be using a simple lambda function to generate my data, and all I want to do is I want to generate some random numbers to fill in this data. Now the easiest way to generate the random numbers in this C style format is to include cstdlib, cstdlib, and it provides us a function called rand. Okay, so rand returns a random number. We can return this between 0 to macro called rand max, if I remember, rand max. And the value of rand max, you can simply check the value of rand max by going to the header file. It's this value. Okay, and now this value is given in hexadecimal, but if you convert this into an integer, then you can think of it as the highest value that integer supports. Okay, now I want my data to be in between 0 to 100. So what I can do is I can say rand modulus 100, and that's basically it. So now let's print the values that are generated. So for that I will be declaring a function called print. I just simply can say auto print. Actually it's a void function of void, so print print auto print, and it's simply going to be a lambda function that's going to take a constant vector reference. So const vector of integers reference called vec, and all it does is let's put a semicolon here. It just loops through the vectors. So int x belongs to a vector. It just simply prints the x, and then it simply gives a comma, and after the whole thing is printed out, it just prints end line. So that's basically it. And now we can print our vector by simply calling print, and then we will give our data here. Okay, now if we run this code, you can see that indeed our data has been generated. It's some random numbers, and yeah, so this is how you can use generate function to generate your data. Just remember that for each element the generate function will be called once. Okay, so you might have some other you want to generate a sequence of, let's say, odd numbers. Okay, so what you can do is you can simply have a int I equals to let's say 0, and what you can do is you can simply capture that I here. Now in this case I will be capturing the whole data inside this main function. So I will just simply giving an ampersand here, and what I can do is I can simply return I times 2. Okay, and after every successful call, what I want to do is I want to multiply I with not multiply, but I just want to add 1 to I. Okay, so now if we run this code, you can see it will start from 2 because the first value will be 1, and as you can see we have successfully generated array that contains all the even numbers from 2. Okay, Now there are some people who will say that the C style random function, it's quite okay to use in my opinion, where it doesn't give you a quite versatile range. So in that case, if you want to learn how you can use C++ style random functions, you can simply include a header file called random. I'm just showing you this, and you can generate random numbers via going through some steps. So the first step is that you need a random device. So I will say random device, DOM, sorry, random device, and I will call this RD. Okay, and then you need a random distribution engine, or whatever it's called. A very popular C++ or random distribution engine is MT19937. Okay, and what it does, it gives us a range. So I will just call this simply an range, and my the range word all actually exists in C++ 17 and above, so I will just call it RNG, and it takes the random device to generate the range. Okay, as simple as that. Now to have our random numbers, what we can do is we can declare a distribution. Now there are a couple of distribution. If you type distribution in Visual Studio Code, there you will find a lot of distributions like Bernoulli distribution, binomial distribution, Cauchy distribution, chi-square distribution or discrete distribution, and so on, the gamma distribution, the very standard distributions you can find here. But in general, if you need a distribution, you can simply say uniform distribution, right? So uni, uniform int distribution, and the type can be integer or unsigned integer. So our case, it will be an unsigned integer, so UNSIGN, the unsigned integer, and this distribution I will call this dist. And in case of uniform distribution, you just keep the range in between which the data has to be generated. In our case, it will be generated in between 1 to 100. Okay, so the highest value, it can be 99 if I am right. And now what I can do is I can just call this distribution on this range, and this should be enough to give us random values that are a lot better random than the previous one. And as you can see, it's distributed quite nicely, but in generalize, you cannot make a quite that much difference from a rand function. Now there are quite other distributions that I told you, like Poisson distributions, but if you guys want a video on that, I can make a video on that, on different kinds of distributions, what the distribution functions return in general, and how you can generate different kind of random sequences depending on this kind of implementation using the random header file. But that's how you typically generate some random numbers. What I wanted to focus on this thing. Now the second, so the first algorithm that we learned is called, let's say it's called generate. Now the next algorithm that we want to focus on, and this is our main array. We are just going to print our main array because we are going to use this as our primary data set, and then we want to modify this data set using the other algorithms that we are going to learn today. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to separate this array into two separate groups. Okay, and for that there exists a function in algorithms library, a very popular function called partition, partition. And this partition function is typically the same partition function that you use in quicksort. Even the STL algorithms sort function that uses quicksort inside uses this partition function. And what it does, it takes a range, so we just simply specify data.begin and data.end, and it partitions that data depending on a logic that you specify here. Now this predicate logic, it obviously takes a single argument, that is the type of the data it's going to handle. So I am just giving a lambda function here, and you can obviously use int reference or whatever, but I'm fine with this. Okay, and what I want to check is I want to return a true or false. So return a true or false depending on the type of the data. So what we will do is we will partition this data depending on whether this data is even or odd. So we can simply say here x modulus 2. Now x modulus 2, it can return either 0 or 1 depending on the value of the x, and if 1 is returned, then that means the value is true, and if 0 is returned, then that means the value is false. So ideally this partition function, it will divide this whole entire array into two different parts. One part will contain, the first part will contain all the odd values, and the second part will contain all the even values. Now this partition function itself returns an iterator, so we can simply say a vector of int iterator, but I will be using auto because I don't want to type so much. So I will say auto iterator, and this iterator denotes to the point from where which separates the both the partitions. So first of all, I would like to print out the partition point. So I will say partition point, and then I will simply print my iterator here with an end line that I often forget to print, and then we are going to once again print our data, okay, to check what has happened. Now as we can see that our partition point is 6, this 6 here, okay, and the data before the 6 are odd numbers, that 99, 33 and 15, and after 6 there are all the even numbers, okay. Now what I can do is I can give a space here, okay. So this is how partition typically works. Now what you can do is you can also check whether a data is partitioned or not using a function called isPartitioned. Partition, sorry, PAR, isPartitioned, and you just give the range and the prediction. So I am just copying this whole thing here and I am pasting this here, and it will check if the data is partitioned or not. So technically it will return you a boolean. You can just simply say bool is equals to this, and you can simply check if this is true or false depending on whether the data is partitioned or not. And also what you can do is you can get the partition point by simply saying, or this iterator by simply calling the function partition if the data is already partitioned. So you can just simply say sorry, I am one second typing PER, but it will be PAR. So I will say partition point, and this function gives us the point of the partition, okay. Now like other functions, it takes the same kinds of arguments, but the difference is that this time it returns a iterator. So rather than this, it will be having a vector of int iterator like previous one, and it's going to give you the same kind of output that this one does, okay. So basically this is how you can use partition point, and isPartitioned, okay. So the next thing that we learned is partition, okay, and here we have learned three functions. One is partition, and sorry, this all will be A. I sometimes write it as E, and partition is partitioned, and there is an ed, and also we learned partition point, okay. Now and obviously these all will be A, okay, not E. Now the third thing that we want to learn today is permutation. Now if you ask me what a permutation is, a permutation is simply a way to rearrange the data. Now to permutate an array, we will be having our data declared as a new sequence of data. So I will just simply assign a new value to the data using an initializer list, and that will be, let's say, 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, quite standard one that we obviously use always. And if we print this right now, we can simply see that our data is this 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. And now what we want to do is we can simply remove these all these stuffs because these are not needed anymore, I guess. Okay, so yeah, we have our data here, and we can simply just say vector of int data. Okay, so we have our data here, and what we want to find is we want to print out the next 10 permutations of our data. So for that I will just simply go through a normal loop. So int I equals to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. Okay, and inside here we will every time we will try to rearrange our data uh, using the function called permutation, next permutation. So we will say next permutation, and we will give the range to our data. So we will just simply say data dot begin and then data dot end. Okay, and now if we run this code, we will see that the data has been indeed permutated in the way that it should be. Like it was 1 2 3 4 5 6, the next permutation should be 6 going here and 5 coming here, so it becomes 1 2 3 4 6 5. And then the next permutation 4 will come here and so on, 5 will come here. And as you can see, this is a very standard, the next permutation and then next permutation and the next permutation, and it goes on. The best part of this is you can just simply write a for loop instead of writing a depth first search tree, and you can just explore all the possible combinations of a sequence using next permutation. We'll have a simple example. For that I want to include the string header file, because we will be using a string, and we will have a string. And just like next permutation, we also have previous permutation that goes to the previous one of the permutation. So for that we will say previous permutation. I just simply can't type the whole thing, so so yeah, previous permutation, pre-permutation, and it gives the previous permutation. Just like the next permutation gives you the next permutation, it gives you the previous permutation. So as you can see, this data's previous permutation will be its reverse order, and then it will go like this, go like this, go like this until it reaches here, and then it will cycle through. Okay, so this is how you typically use previous permutation. And we'll have our demo. So you can also, if you just want to reverse an array, simply you can simply say reverse. Okay, this is the easiest way to reverse an data, by the way. And it will reverse the data once, and then this is arrange the data again, then reverse the data once, and then arrange the data again, and so on. Okay, so this is how you can simply use reverse. But we want to see a practical example of next permutation that I want to speak to you. So next per permutation. Okay, for some reason I just can't type the whole thing. So next permutation. So what I want to do is I want to have a string. So let's say string, and I will call it str, and it calls something like umbrella, umbrella, umbrella. And what I want to do is I want to simply print all the permutations of umbrella. Okay, this string here, I want to simply write a program that will print all the data of the umbrella. So what we can do is we can give the string here. Okay, and obviously print will not work. We can simply say cout, and then we can say our string, and then we can say end line. Okay, and now if we run this code, you will see that all the permutations of umbrella, they are being printed here. Now I don't know how many permutations are there, so what we can do is I can simply run a while loop. So while while, and I want to check, I want to copy the string first. So let's say string cpy, because copy function exists in algorithm header file, and we are obviously doing a bad practice, that is we are using namespace std at the top. So I will just copy the string here as cpy, and I will do this. I will first call next permutation once outside so that our string looks different, and then while we are doing the same stuff, we are looping through the whole thing. I just to write the loop a little bit later, and after we print the string, what we will do is we will again call next permutation to permute the string, and we also want here to check if the string, our str, is not equals to copy. So whenever our string is equals to the original string, that means we have looped through all the successful combinations. Okay, and then we can just simply get out from this while loop. So okay, and even you can just simply say true here, and check the thing below. And what I want to do is I want to put an int count here as 0. Okay, not count but count count as 0, and every time we enter the loop, what I want to do is I want to increase the count by 1. Okay, and now if I run this code, you can see that all the possible combinations of umbrella are being printed here, all the possible permutations. And it's going to take a lot of time, so I'm just going to abort this thing, and I'm going to take a simple string called abc. Okay, now if we run this code, we can simply see that except abc, all other strings have been printed, like acb, bac, bca, cab, and cba. Okay, and here are 5 strings, and taking the original string it will be 6. And what this count is if you just count the whole thing, it will be equated to the factorial of 3. Okay, now I'm not going to print the whole thing, but I hope you can understand what I want to say here. Like, if you want to loop through all the possible combinations of a particular scenario, then you can do this kind of thing. You can use next permutation to make your life a little easier. Now the last thing that we can do simply to wrap the things up is to go through 2 mini functions provided by STL. So we'll once again have a vector of integers called vec, and it will have some values. For the sake of simplicity, let's have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. And the first function that I want to specify today is called max. Okay, so what max returns is very simple. It returns the maximum element in the vector. So I will say max of vector, and obviously it will return me an iterator to where the maximum element is situated. So I will have to dereference it in order to print the value. So I will just wrap this whole thing into first bracket and then dereference. Max will take vec.begin. I just didn't give the range, so vec.begin and vec.end. Like most other functions provided by the STL, it takes the same kind of approach. So vec.end, end, and it will give me an iterator. By dereferencing the iterator, I can print the value, maximum value, and then I will give a dash here. And the same way that we have used max, we can use mean. Okay. So in the next line we can say mean, and then we will, and also here it will call as mean. Okay, we're dereferencing it, so we shouldn't give any space, and also we can give a double colon here to specify that this belongs to the same string. And also just remove this one here, and we can give our dash here. And also there is also another function called min max. So min max will typically return you a pair. So to get the values individually, what you will call is, you will call first and then you will call second. Okay, so I'm not bothering that much, but in case if you want to see it, I can just print it as this, and then end line, and finally I can give a comma here. End actually refers to the element after the last element. Okay, so to neglect that fact that that element after last element that doesn't actually exist, we can simply give -1 here and at the end instead of end, and it should fix our issue with that abort. Okay, I was not careful. So as you can see, the max returned 5, and then the mean returned 1, and then min max returned 1 and 5 as a pair. Okay, and these were the locations or the iterators to the particular values that were returned. So we dereferenced all those iterators using asterisk to get the values. So that's it for today, guys. Hope you have enjoyed this video and learned some new functions provided by STL. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. It means a lot to me. It motivates me to do these kinds of videos, and thank you very much.